Braden Griffiths, 6'4", 600 pounds, lean, shooting guard slash small forward, 38% from three, bada bing. For those who are new here, this is acting week 9. And essentially, I'm striving to be an actor. Catch you up. Last few weeks I've been feeling like a loser because I've failed in a lot of the external senses of the world. I walked away from business and a sales pursuit that didn't feel aligned spiritually with what I wanted to be doing. And then from there, I decided to get into acting. I got into a college acting program that starts in September. It's currently March 11th in 2026. And I will be heading there in September. So I'm excited to go to Toronto. But in that time, we need some money, right? We need to save up some money to get a job. And I've applied to a bunch of different jobs, a bunch of different things, and it appears nowadays that sometimes you need to apply 4 times to a Starbucks job to get a call back because there's such a high volume of applications. So it's been a bit of a challenge, and my lack of a desire to go back into a detached sales job is high. Who knows what will happen in that, but I had an interview today, and it actually went pretty good, and it was my first interview in a little while. It's for like a social media for a charity, so I think that could actually be really spiritually aligned with what I want to do, plus opportunities for creativity and working within a system of people that are helping a greater good. So that could be very much in line. Hoping and praying for that one. But other than that, I've begun to search more into a couple different things. So, I told you guys I bought a bunch of books. I've been reading Meisner on acting. I've been learning a monologue lately that has an accent, which I've been trying to study accent work. Basically, the best tips that I got are practice, listen to somebody with the accent, and get a dialect coach. I can't buy a dialect coach at present, so I'm stuck listening to the audio of this individual. Luckily, it's a very renowned character and accent, so it's cool and it's coming together. I don't think I'll post it, but regardless, I think it's a good activity and an exercise. But Meisner in this book, he would often talk about like the repetition exercise, and that made me essentially like, I'll try and find one, but it's kind of like in The Lighthouse. Here's one example. It's like it's between 2 people. It's like, you poked me in the back. I poked you in the back. You poked me in the back. Yes, I poked you in the back. Yes, you poked me in the back. It's like it's a kind of back and forth response type of exercise. And Meisner's philosophy is very much in running out of instinct and trying to get less heady about how you're approaching the actual craft, and to which this idea I'm very new, and it's hard to conceptualize without actually being on a set or in a class where I can see and try that stuff. But it's regardless, I think it's good information to take in and start to think about, or in Meisner's words, not think about, and just be and allow the instinct to come through you. But a couple things I've been thinking a lot about. Representation. I think that I have youth on my side. Braden Griffiths, 6'4", 800 pounds, lean, 23 years old, shooting guard, 23 years old. I think that is an opportunity. Although I'm unk compared to some of the kids who have been acting since they were like 5 years old. I think that because of my age, I think it can be an advantage to being put into certain environments where I might get new opportunities to play characters that are younger than me, essentially. And I think that it's a good age range to be. A lot of male actors start to get majority of their opportunity when they start to hit, their late 30s, early 40s, because they start to get that kind of weathered masculine look, and they have also probably been in the industry for 20 years. They have connections, things just start to click. Maybe the physique comes together, they do a body transformation, and all these different components come together. Regardless, I think that representation is a good way to get access to real opportunities, like real things that are out there. And I've narrowed it down. I've thought about it. If I can avoid commercial work, if I can avoid, not necessarily, I'm not opposed to modeling. And I think this is that's the second part that I wanted to talk about. But I think that it's film and TV is 100% my goal. And telling stories that I feel like articulate the human experience in a way that glorifies God, I feel like is my purpose. And you know, that's what I want to do through this medium, this beautiful medium of acting and of film. I think that it's the most awesome medium and the coolest way to show a lot of gifts to the world. So that's what I want to do, and I think that I will get access to certain opportunities. So I've begun to research agencies in Toronto, and this is the second component, typecasting. I need to get in shape for some headshots, because realistically, I'm not 600 pounds. Just hope that was clear. You know, anything's possible though. I'm about 220 pounds right now. I am 6'4", so the weight distributes evenly, but shirt off, nothing special. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done there, and a lot of opportunity to get pretty lean, and I think that can even just open up, sharpens the face up a lot. You know, just makes every part of your body look better until you hit a certain point of looking gaunt. But I've never been super skinny in my life, never. So I've always been big bones, they used to say, you know, back in the day in high school. But yeah, I think that there's room for a 15 or 20 pound weight loss. I've recently been trying to also grow my hair. You know, as you guys may have noticed, from some of you remember when I had a buzz cut. I'm not opposed to doing that again, but right now I think that typecasting and embracing the longer hair kind of look, like I think that's okay, for the time being, because I think that you can always make hair go shorter. It just takes a while for it to get longer. So if you really need to descend, it's much easier to do that. And I feel comfortable at any hair length, but I feel like I got long curly hair, so that's another asset that God has blessed me with. So yeah, so I've been trying to grow that out and trying to get into shape. And you know, my metabolism has been slower as a kid. So what I've been trying to do is eat more meals, smaller meals, and fuel more reasonably instead of just, you know, I used to be super aggressive keto and carnivore. And I think that there's a place for cutting out carbs. And, you know, bodybuilders, when they're peaking, that's the last thing that they do is they cut out the carbs in the last one-ish months, and they're running like, you know, 1,500, 2,000 calories. You know, and I was running a keto variation at like 2,500 to 2,000 calories for the better part of the last 2 years, and then I did a couple of years of bulking and cutting in between then, and then before that I was doing pretty much the same thing as well. So my body I think it's shocked that it's actually getting carbs, and I think that I've actually been retaining there's probably a lot of water retention that comes with that. And I also recently decided to stop alcohol for a little while, and just tone it down on that, because I recorded one of the videos. I kind of embarrassed myself, and I felt a harsh rebuke in one direction to be like, nah, don't do that. And I felt a couple other convictions with some vices or some decisions that I've been on the fence about. And I think that I haven't been all in, because, you know, it's a scary factor. But I talked on another previous recording about, you know, Bruce Wayne jumping in the pit, right? We're always trying to cling to these little vices, these things that we feel like are helping us or helping soothe us. For me, the few that I struggle with, you know, pride, greed, lust, alcohol or substances, just these other things that, you know, they feel great in the moment, or, you know, we feel like there's something happening in the moment, but, you know, ultimately they stray us away from our purpose, they stray us away from God, they stray us away from our fitness, they stray us away from our relationships, all these different things that, you know, are hard. And not to give you guys advice, but, you know, for me, I'm trying to cut the shit. You know, like look through what's actually happening. And obviously you can't be perfect all the time, and it's not like I'm never gonna drink again. But for me, I think that now is a period of focus that I've been gifted with this time while I'm still trying to find work and still trying to do that. I think that there's a huge opportunity to use that time effectively. So I'm grateful to have been able to, in the last week specifically, since making a couple key decisions, I feel like they will pay dividends, to stop bullshitting and stop trolling. Because if you troll, you pay the toll. You know that? That's what a very wise man once taught me. I'm listening to a lot of Alan Watts. If you're graced with Alan Watts, he talks a lot about the oneness or the illusion of time. And this is something that I've been feeling and reflecting upon a lot, is like, why do we cling to these vices? Why do we cling to these things that, we're looking for that security. We're looking for that rope, that we can have, or we're just like, yeah, we have this thing to fall back on. At least I have getting drunk on Saturdays with the boys. At least I can go out and meet girls. At least I can, have that safe, stable job, or, do these different things, right? When in reality, the illusion, as Alan Watts describes, is this illusion of security. He wrote a book that I read, maybe 5 years ago. I probably didn't understand much of it, but he talks about the concepts in a few videos that I've watched of the wisdom of insecurity, where everything is in flux all the time. Everything that we're doing is continually moving and continually changing, and there's no security except in God and in his plan and in his grace. And that's such a challenging and dense concept, because for me, it's been, and a lot of people in my life, asking, okay, well, what about the job? What are you going to do? Well, say you get into acting, what are you going to do to make money? How are you going to provide for your family? How are you going to do this? It's like all of this stuff. Even if you do everything right in the traditional sense of the word, even if you do everything textbook, you go to college, you get the job, you get the girl, you get the house, you have the kids, you could lose any of those things at any time, because we don't know any of this stuff. There's so much insecurity that just exists within our world, and that's terrifying for people. So we try and cling to these things as hope. At least we have these things. And I heard this other cool thing. It's kind of extended from "in filth it shall be found," but the people in the middle are the ones who are going to lack faith the most, because when you're in the middle, you're cozy. You're just cozy enough to have that security, but you're not suffering enough to have to rely on something. And if you're on the bottom, you need to rely on God. And even if you're not a Christian, even if you're at the bottom, you need to rely on something. You need hope in something. There has to be like something. This suffering has to mean something. And if you're at the top, you have so many blessings in your life where you're like, how did I get all this? Especially like if you've had maybe some rough experiences in your life, you're like, how did I get any of this? So it's interesting, where in filth it shall be found. I find myself at the stages of my life where I'm watching people get things. I'm watching people be successful, and it's like, I'm gonna wait my turn. I'm gonna make sure that I just show up and I put in the work every day, and I'm not relying on these vices, and I'm not trying to make excuses or envy or bring other people down for what they have that I do not, because God has given everybody the things that they need in due time. And right now, I'm currently in a season of, it seems like starving a lot of these different vices, or starving a lot of the falsehoods, or self-reliance, or, these different things that, I can't just depend on the money anymore, or, at least I have my however many dollars per month. At least I have, these different things. Can't rely on that stuff, because there is no tangible stuff to rely on, which is fascinating. Like it's incredible that like I'm completely at the grace of my parents right now, and they have let me stay here, and they have let me, given me space to figure this out. And it's if I didn't have them, like I'd be toast. Like I'd be cooked. I'd have to figure it out, but I'd be cooked. Like it'd be wild. So I'm at the grace of my parents right now. I'm in their facility. I am dependent on them, and for this game of acting, it'll be a hard thing to go out there and hustle and rip, like just rip it. Like it'll be hard to like go and tackle, because it'll be a challenging thing where there's a lot of timing, and if you're desperate, if you're trying to force everything, then you just push those opportunities further and further away. And if you're always harassing your agent, you're like, well, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? What do you got for me? They're just going to get annoyed with you. And I learned a lot about networking and just opportunities coming and going within the sales career that I've had, albeit short, but it's been interesting. So that's what's been going on. So getting in shape, getting a job, starting building representation. I'm going to show you guys this, because I'm starting to build this little CRM, right, of different agencies, which different contacts. I'm gonna start building like an email list and things like that. Pretty much essentially giving myself a sales job to find people to contact. And then I'm also doing that for active actors and actresses that I could potentially connect with. How much fruit this will bear, I don't know, but it'll give me an education about the industry, and hopefully in the next calendar year, I can find some representation that will take me on and see some opportunity. And yeah, that'd be it. This is week 9. All right, take it easy.